We're going to have a very interesting conversation, but before I lay the groundwork for the conversation, I'm going to invite my fellow panelists onto the stage. I'll begin by inviting Gulalai Khan. If she could just please make it to the stage. Gulalai Khan is a development and digital governance specialist. She's her area of expertise is mostly internet governance and technology policy at LUMS, but a lot of her work also has to do with inclusion and with how to balance technology with progress in an inclusive way. So we're very happy to have her as part of the panel. I'm also going to invite Ms. Annum Sadiq. She's the co-founder and CEO of the edtech startup EdCasa. She's been recognized as one of the top women entrepreneurs in the country by the Prime Minister. She and EdCasa continue to be the shining bright light in the edtech space in Pakistan. So we're very happy to have her as part of the panel.
Thank you.
I'll also invite Mr. Abid Gill, who's a recognized voice and in the space of non-formal education. Abid Gill Saab has over 27 years of experience as an education development professional. He's worked for large development organizations on education, including UNICEF and UNESCO, and currently is in a leadership role at JICA. So it'd be great to have him and his perspective on the conversation. I think we're soon about to be joined by Mr. Haider Shishmahal. I'll introduce him and he'll quickly join us. He's a education technologist and is currently involved with a very impressive foundation called Teach the World Foundation that use blended ed tech techniques to teach out-of-school children. So as soon as he's here, he'll join us on stage where we'll begin the conversation with Haider Saab. Haider Saab is a Fulbright scholar. He's a graduate of Harvard, and he's been a school teacher for many years and now works at Teach the World Foundation. I'm going to begin the conversation, and before I begin, I'm going to lay a bit of a groundwork on how we ended up bringing this conversation together. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here. Over the past day and a half, we've heard some amazing, inspirational conversations about the future. We've heard about AI. We've heard about all the possibilities. Some good news, and some not so good news possibilities for the future using technology and AI. One of the things that really stood out to me, at least, in all of those conversations is that when we were imagining that future, in a lot of cases, we were not thinking about all people of Pakistan. So we were thinking about a lot of Pakistanis and people who are close or similar to us and who are fortunate enough to be like us. But a lot of those conversations had, for me, missing spots of what reality is. And I thought that with the education conversation, we should be, at least when we shape the future, we should be as inclusive as we can. So I thought this was a very important conversation to be ending on at the end of day two, that we should be having a much more open conversation on things and or about the future. And while we have the exciting parts, we should also have the less exciting conversations, the challenges that we still have to grapple with. One of those challenges is that 25.3 million children continue to be out of school. Those who are in school, World Bank data shows that more than 70% of the 10-year-olds, no matter whether they go to school, they don't go to school, they go to a public school or a private school, they continue to not meet basic literacy standards by the age of 10. So they can't read a simple text and answer questions about it. So learning, whether you're in school, is also poor. So we thought let's talk about those children, the ones that are getting left behind and may not have access to those things. And I'm going to begin this conversation with access and with you, Gill Saab. We have schools, amazing schools. The government system has hundreds and thousands of schools. We have massive private sector networks like the amazing work that the Beacon House does. But then access continues to be a problem for millions of children in the country. How do we shape a future where we don't leave those children behind? I know it's a broad question, but I'd love to hear how you want to get started, because I know you're an expert.
Thank you very much.
this 26 million children which we were discussing, they are not in the any education in the program, or they don't have any connectivity with education. So we must not forget the faces behind this 26 million. So this 26 million, before we talk about what are the possibilities and solution, we need to understand who they are, these 26 million children. Uh, so if we see the age level of these children, so the children who are already crossed their age to enter to the any education program or in school, so they are around more than 18 million children from this 26 million. They are out of the like the age which is the eligible age for to joining any school. So that make around 60% of the children in this 26 million, they are between like 8 to 16 year age group. Uh, then we can see those children's majority of them they lives in the rural areas, and recently we can see this big number also in the slums of all those cities. They are suffered from the disasters. Recently, we know in the it's a big part of Punjab, and in last 2020, uh, uh, the 2022 flood and then 2011 flood. So they are suffered from the disasters. So their education one disturbed. It's difficult for them to join the education. There are two reasons. One is definitely the education infrastructure. When it's disturbed, then few months of disconnectivity basically leads to them towards work side, because their family also lose their income and then livelihood, and then their priority shift from schools to the earning something. We all know the child labor, with all the laws and all those strong commitments, still majority of the children, they are bound to work, and they are in this child labor and child work areas. Then we see the children's, those who are out of school, majority of them are girls, so they have no like less opportunity as compared to the boys. And then these children's who are with the poor health and with the disabilities, this also make a more than 6% children who are this. So if we see this like the challenge, that's tell us the reasons why they are not in education. They are many, so it's not a simple like there is access issue. It's basically a very complex issues, and the children who are not in the system, the exclusions, there are many reasons of this exclusions. So the design which we offer them, frankly speaking, is not inclusive enough to accommodate all these children. So our design says we are open in the morning. If it suits to, you can join. Frankly speaking, many children, they have to work and they are not open to come to their schools in the morning. Then we have a very fixed, rigid content, fixed duration, and which also not allow the children who are overage, and which not sometimes allow the children on a different timing, different place, and different place they want to learn. So the design which is there, what we say is basically we have established the schools or constructed the schools. So if it suits to, you can jump. But million children, they are not linked with this type of solutions, because they needed some different arrangement. So if we talk about, as you said, the access, it's not only just a access, its relevance is also part of this. If education is not addressing their economic, social, and cultural needs, so they are again not coming to this. So our schooling model, which most of the public schools we have, is they are not ready to address their economic, social, and cultural needs. So one uniformed model in Lahore, in Gwadar, in like Chitral and everywhere. So this model is not basically which is suits to them. So if we have to think about how we can bring this 26 million children, which are the potential or the future of Pakistan, so we have to think about some alternate means to bring them to the systems. So what's those alternate means are? Number one, those means should be a more a flexible. Uh, for example, they are not available in the morning due to any of their reasons. So we should flexible enough to accommodate the evening hours, any program which allow them to come to the in the afternoon or evening according to their like available time and according to their priority. Second, we should not just go for the rigid fixed content. So many children, they are interested to learn not only the education, but some skills which leads towards some employability. So we should have a program which have connectivity with these, integrated with the skill and also with the basic education. And also it's not necessarily to be a fixed place to learn them. Maybe they can learn in a mosque, they can learn in any community place, they can learn in their own working place for this. So the place, the timing, the content, all need to be a more flexible according to their need. So in Pakistan, we all know the declining factor of allocating budget to the education. We are from last many years below than 2% of our budget to the education of GDP. So that is, if we see the in the school classroom and student ratio and teacher student ratio almost on the standards, like 39 by 1 is the teacher student ratio and around 41 is the classroom ratio. So with this limited budget and this every year shrinking budget, we can enhance big infrastructures for them. So beyond this infrastructure, we need to think. So for this, all these four provincial governments and also the federal ministry, they come up with a new alternate learning system in Pakistan. They call it ALP or accelerated learning. So what's this program?
Sorry, could you repeat that? ALP?
Accelerated learning program.
Accelerated
so
learning.
It's a alternate or accelerated, both this works. So what this program is basically, so this program have a like a four models. Number one is ALP primary. So all those children who miss their entry age to the schools and now they are over age, 8 year, 9 year, 10 to 11, 12. So they can join this ALP primary and then complete their primary education in 30 months. So this 30 months again is a maximum duration. 30 months.
Yeah.
Not a 7 years to complete the primary, but in 30 months. So it's a maximum. Because we all know that if you just go outside, you find children selling something. So they have lot of prior learning. They have the mental mathematics. They know many scientific things. They also have communication skills and many things. So if we recognize their skills, their learning pace can be the like.
And this is already happening?
This is already happening. It's already available in the, like in Punjab, in Balochistan, KP, and also in the federal areas. So this ALP program, now many children, who are overaged, they opt this program, and then they are continuing their education, this 3 program. Second, because in Pakistan, 80% schools are primary. So when we reach to the elementary level, it's suddenly dropped to the 11%.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the further like just a 9% in the secondary. So this pyramid, it's basically, it's when it goes very sharp, it's not allow children to continue after the primary. So to address this slight challenge, so there is one program, we call it ALP middle. And this ALP middle is grade 6, 7, 8. The children, they can reach to the elementary level in 18 months, who are dropped out or they've never been to schools, and then they with some basic prior knowledge they have. It was very, actually, for us was also very learning experience when we are working with the ministry on designing this program. So when we start offering this program, still many parents, it's on their place, doorstep, no fees, timing was flexible, content was flexible. Still there was many children and parents were not interested to send their children to this program. Reason was, they believe after few years spending in education, if it is not translated in some income enhancement, they are not interested.
Yeah.
So their interest is more, it should be offer them some, the program which leads towards some employability or any job opportunities.
Let me come back to you on this, but just to connect to this, I'm going to go to Annum next. And basically, this expectation that education will lead to enhanced economic opportunity, and which in turn a lot of times is kind of translates into jobs, right? So essentially, बेहतर नौकरी मिलेगी कि नहीं मिलेगी, काम होगा कि नहीं होगा, because a lot of these children, the ones that we're talking about, they're especially boys, but in many cases girls in rural settings, they are contributing to the household in some way, either economically or through chores or something. And so the expectation is that there will be a marginal utility that they're going to get by additional education. One of those aspects of the lot of research shows, and we've also witnessed, is one of the ways that parents and families see that additional value is with the experience of the child and with the quality of the learning. One of the ways that children are getting left behind isn't just about access to school, right? There are a lot of children that are getting left behind who are going to school, but the quality of the learning that they're receiving there isn't really up to the mark. So they're going to school, they're getting through the grades, the NAT survey shows that the parents are satisfied, but when you measure the child isn't up to the mark in the basic learning levels, both numeracy and literacy. So the assistance that we can make, Abid Sahab talked about how there can be alternate systems to provide support as an alternative to the school as access. You work on something that provides, even for kids who are going to school, as in like beyond school help for learning. Can you speak a bit about that and what your experience has been in Punjab?
Absolutely. So, pehle to I'm very happy to see that about like 70, 80 people have shown up on a Sunday to talk about out of school children. So, applause to you all. It's very encouraging that people care about this.
Absolutely.
And I hope you all showed up to this particular session because you care about the children who are out of school. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, that's lovely. That's very heartening. Because honestly, what you asked, Shahab Saab, pehle ki what is the issue? I think the issue is that people don't care enough. There are millions left behind, and we are just trying to improve our own little niche area. We just leave these people behind and we just pretend like it doesn't matter. But it really, really matters, and it's growing. Jitna AI or jitni complex technology of aa gayi hai, jitna globalization ho gaya hai, these kids will not have a future if we don't teach them to read and write. And I'm sorry, I'm doing a bit of a tangent
No,
on
absolutely.
this, but I was very happy to see so many and young people show up. So I want to share a little bit of my story of how I started my company. So I'm an educator. पिछले 18 साल से I've been working in education. I've worked with World Bank. I was working on education reform, thinking कि मैं कोई कुछ कर पाऊंगी, कुछ बड़ा change हो जाएगा. But actually what I saw was that, जैसे आबिद साहब ने कहा कि बहुत localized solutions चाहिए, we need to move faster, we need to experiment. Unfortunately वो हो नहीं रहा था. So then at that point, I felt that either I can leave the country. I had a scholarship to go abroad and study. So either I leave the country and then just be there, or I can do something about this. And that's where the idea of my company at CASA was born. I said, no, I'm going to take it a try. I'm going to see कि अगर मुझसे कुछ 100 बच्चों की life में भी improvement आती है, then I feel like my purpose would have been achieved. So for any of you who are interested in this, that means आपके अंदर teaching का एक sense है, commitment है, and we need people like that on field. So at CASA basically is an online learning platform. We have about 3 solutions that we offer. So पहला is B2C. Students who have mobile phones and data can access about 8,000, 10,000 videos. They go through questions. There are about 600,000 users on our app who are doing that. But through the process, we realized that digital divide hai. There's a lot of kids who don't have access to smartphones, who don't have access to the internet. So we started working with schools, जैसे government schools हैं. उधर हमने literacy, numeracy पे specifically focus करके पढ़ाना शुरू किया through live online classes as well as offline models. And LUMS did a fantastic research which showed that 250% increase in learning outcomes when you are using these kind of services. And the third model is we've also taken over government schools. There's a lot of momentum around privatization. So we're one of the companies. Right now we're running about 50 government schools. So ये 3 verticals हैं. And the thing is that one after the other it came. Because जब आप लोग जाते हैं local गाँव में जाते हैं, आप देखते हैं challenge क्या है. मैं आपको बताऊँ, when we teach in Okara, the timetable is completely different. Yani even the way we test in Okada is very different than the cycle we follow in Sahiwal. And the reason is कि बच्चा वहाँ पे आलू की फसल काश्त कर रहा है, वहाँ पे गंदम की फसल काश्त कर रहा है. So we can't follow this extreme regimented, very centralized model कि exam इस वक्त होगा और इस तरह पढ़ाई होगी, etc. etc. As much as we want to have that ease and facilities to do that, because it's much easier to do that rather than to constantly be pivoting. But that is the requirement. So the solution has to be very, very localized. और जैसे आपने बात की on quality. So sure, 28 million children जो alhamdulillah पिछले 6 महीने में 500,000 कम हो गए हैं, which is great, with the privatization, etc. मगर ये बच्चे जा रहे हैं 70% को vowels नहीं आते, English reading नहीं आती, right? Now we're talking again in the context of knowledge-based economy. That's very problematic. Now I have hired over 100 teachers right now. We have 120 teachers. One test that I do, I ask them A, B, C, D की sounds निकालें. A की sound क्या है, B की sound क्या है. Believe you me, 90% of the teachers don't know the sound के C की क है, D की ड है, right? And I don't blame them. They're not taught as well. They're doing teaching is not a profession that people's is the first choice. Whoever sort of feels कि कुछ और नहीं करने को मिल रहा तो चलो teach कर लेते. We haven't made it into a role model which a teacher actually is, and neither have we equipped them with training or skills required. So in the absence of a good teacher who's not only qualified but is empathetic, is understanding of the student's need, so solutions like ours come to the forefront. So when we started at CASA, we sat down with 800 students, said, why is this gap there? Especially intermediate metric, people are spending a lot to get to that point, and even then, supply rate is about 40%. That's mad. 40% बच्चे जो metric exams sin में दे रहे हैं fail हो रहे हैं. That's a really broken system. And then they go again back to the tuition. It's really hectic. So we asked the students, what do you want? And most of them said, we want a teacher who's empathetic, who's not going to scold us for asking a question. So we built the app keeping in mind the student needs encouragement, they need practice, and that's how we believe कि जितना वो practice कर रहे हैं, जिस तरह वो learn कर रहे हैं, उससे वो quality का gap fill हो रहा है. Now, having said that, I'm not saying technology is a replacement for school. As I mentioned, a lot of what we do is augmenting the school. मगर unfortunately हमारी कुछ locations ऐसी हैं, जैसे आबिद साहब ने mention किया, girls don't have girls schools to go to, or their cultural constraints. There's documentation issues now that kids who don't have bay forms or birth certificates can't attend school, even a government school. There's IDPs, there are people who are dislocated. You have to cater very localized solutions for that. And that's where technology can move really fast. We work with different organizations. We give these students very tailored content, and the dissemination practice is according to their context as well. जहाँ पे internet है वहाँ internet leverage करते हैं. जहाँ पर teacher अच्छी है उसको कैसे leverage करना है, afternoon shifts करने हैं, क्या करना है. But then the private sector can have this kind of speed of execution, which is why I hope that the people in the audience get motivated and think about how they can contribute their part. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And two things worth kind of like zeroing in on is one, I would just say that yes, teaching has become one of those professions where, unfortunately, the way that we've trained teachers or made the profession be one where it's the profession of last resort in many places, which of course has an impact on how it is taken into school, and we can put a lot of that on the teachers themselves, but I don't think it's fair, because when you look at the working conditions and the way teachers are managed, both in I would say in the government sector, but also in the low-cost private sector, I think those incentives need to be rethought and re-looked at very closely, because nobody wants to do a bad job and show up and do a bad job. But so that's worth saying that yes, while it may be a profession of last resort, people who do end up in a teaching profession, they're not set up to win as much as they could be, or as you know, as Beacon House or other teachers do set their teachers to win. So we have to be fair there as well. The other thing that you spoke about, I think, is very important, is about adaptable solutions, or letting children kind of move with their schedule and be able to adapt to their things, because a lot of times with rigid systems, when we try to operate them into such a with children across so many different backgrounds, a lot of that burden is on the child to kind of make do with all the other things that they're having to deal with. Especially with Pakistan is a difficult place in most cases, right? Like, as in, we have so many masail for all of us. There's climate-related issues, there's law and order-related issues, there's all of those things, there's disruptions, all of that. On top of that, there are difficulties in how those children in certain challenging settings are learning. So it's important for us to have solutions that cater to that. Talking about adaptive solutions, I noticed that I'll also recognize that Haider Shamsal Saab is here. Thank you very much for joining us.
Shishmahal.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Shishmahal. I do apologize. I should take more care in pronouncing people's names. Haider Ali Saab, very quickly, while you weren't here, we spoke about how access is one of those things where children who are left behind they don't have access to schools. They are not able to do either because their schools don't exist, or the schools require them to follow schedules or platforms that may not be compatible with their lives. Teach the World Foundation has a solution that is adaptive and does take in a lot of those children. We'd love to hear from you how that is. Yeah.
I am. Hi.
I think somewhere in between. Yes.
Hi. I'm Haider Shishmahal. I don't need a microphone because I'm a teacher. And this size room is very easy for a teacher's voice to carry. People keep insisting I use a microphone. Why do you want to deafen yourself and embarrass me? All right. Number one, the topic is pathways to left behind. I don't want to talk about, I'll tell you who I am right now professionally. I am the Director of Learning and Academics at Teach the World Foundation, which has 4 Harvard graduates, MIT grads, including our founders Shafiq Khan and Imran Saeed. We have 3 models of our own. I'm sure everybody on stage has their own models because we need lots of solutions and models. Imran Zaheer from Junior Jinnah Trust says, in Pakistan, we need bus, motorcycle, van, car, truck, cycle, everything. So we are not disputing your models. We are not. And at Teach the World Foundation, we have a digital micro school model, a smartphone model, and an in-school model. But we are not telling everybody you have to follow our models. You can decide yourself which is most effective for your area. Okay? The thing is that enough talking has been done. Enough papers have been published, enough TikToks have been released where people are not paying attention
Well,
to
enough-
TikToks when they should be.
Well, when they're educational TikToks with 3 billion views, you know you're making a difference.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. But there's 10 billion people in the world today, out of which 2 billion are functionally illiterate, out of which 270 million are, or 280 million are out of school, out of which 10% of the population problem is in Pakistan, between 25.3 to 28 million, depending on who
Or how you
are.
count. Or how you count. Yes. Yes.
The statistics themselves, the models are unimportant. What is important is the projections. The projections right now in 2010 was how many million? Abid Gill Sahab, 8-10 million. And then where is it today? And where is it going by 2030? And where is it going by 2035? 50 million out of school children by 2035. They're going to rob you. That's what they're going to do. They're going to break down the whole system. The whole government. They don't have any stake in it. Oh, I don't think. Why would they follow any of our rules when we have 15 million illiterate? So, let's get to the topic. Pretty simple. I know the NGOs, I know the working groups. Most people, I know them more than they know me. But the point is, without Qasim Kasuri, without Sophia Kasuri, Nasir Kasuri, without the family, without Shahrizad, Tarar, and all the people whose names I've forgotten because I worked here once, but it was over 11 years ago. We need them. We need Dr. Mariam Chuktai, Dr. Faisal Mushtaq, Dr. Nida Hussain. We need all the old retired teachers and all the private schools. They're already talking. Yesterday I was at another event. They're already talking about making an out-of-school department in every private school. But look at it as an hourglass. At the top, you have very privileged people like Deacon House and boss, your boss alumni. What's happening is these people are starting from the students to teach the middle school students, and the middle class students are teaching the lower class students, and the lower class students are teaching the out-of-school children. It's a beautiful model, do it however you like. But the point is, action right now. Back to you.
Right. So one of the things that I think that's very important in what you just said is basically there is a lack of. Well, everybody approaches in one way, some with the oratory skills or others with others. But all of us agree on one thing, that we've been having this conversation for a while. for years. Like Abid, you and I, like our entire career has gone. Out of school children number moved from 25 million to 19 million. It's back up to 25 million. By the way, in this period, we have put in an extra 5 to 7 million children in school, but there are more children, right? And so the thing continues to be, continue to be millions and millions who are getting left behind. Being left behind in school, out of school, quality of learning, there's another aspect of being left behind, Gulalai, which is, well, we spoke about it, which is the quality of learning, but there's another aspect of being left behind, which is more social. And, when we design solutions, a lot of times, even the solutions themselves can only cater to, there are those that even the solutions don't apply to, right? And I'm going to be a little, I'm just going to ask you to talk about a little bit about, I love EdTech. I've spent this entire day then talking about how the AI is going to be the golden thing that's going to either help us or destroy us. We have EdTech solutions that are in person as well, like the one that the Teach the World Foundation rolls out. But Pakistan and EdTech की जो landscape है, वो incomplete है to begin with.
Thank you, Shahab. And actually, I want to appreciate all the models who are trying to work for the different pathways that are for the left behind. Because there's so many people left behind that no amount of work can actually, match the kind of the support that they need. So kudos to all of you for that. Coming to your question on EdTech, I'll talk more about tech today. Because sometimes, we use a word interchangeably with so many things, and it's such a buzzword now. Let's use technology, it's a cross-sectoral thing. But there are fundamental issues with technology as well, and in a country like ours especially. So there was a 2016 report, which happened like 10 years, almost 10 years back, from digital device to digital dividends. And that, I have yet to see कि उसका कितना, like after 10 years, it's still as relevant, which talks about how despite digital adoption, there is pessimism in the global outlook to technology, not because technology is there, but in spite of it. And there is a reason. Because unless and until you use technology or EdTech or any solution where you don't have inclusion and efficiency and accountability, you're not going to be successful. And it is not going to work for everyone. So we see education and technology, when pehle education was a democratic a solution. You could say that somebody who gets educated has the social mobility and will do something in life. Now, technology has made that more democratic, but there are fundamental issues with it. Number one, access. So you cannot reach everyone because you have places in Pakistan where there is a real gap with access to technology and internet. So EdTech solution will reach a few. You'll have community centers. You'll try very hard to have those, places, the community centers where internet can be provided and they can work. But that's going to be a very, very big issue. And before I move to one of my students at LUMS, who was, I think, an NOP student, so he comes from Gilgit. And I gave him some assignments. And Shahab, if you allow me, I want to go off track a little bit because I gave him a presentation and I asked him, just any personality in internet governance that inspires you, anything, any topic that you want to talk about. And he wrote a piece, which is bear with me because because I talk about access to technology, right? And we in classes think that everybody has equal access just because they're sitting in our classes, but that's actually not true. So let me just, उसने उर्दू में लिखा है, it's very interesting. उन्वान है, सिग्नल आ रहा है, अस्सलाम वालेकुम, मेरा नाम वसीम है और मैं गिलगित बल्तिस्तान से ताल्लुक़ रखने वाला एजुकेशन और इंटरनेट एक्टिविस्ट हूँ। अलबत्ता मैं एक्टिव तब होता हूँ जब लाइट होती है और नेट तब चलता है जब हवा का रुख हमारे हक में होता है। देखें, पूरी दुनिया के लोग 5G की बातें करते हैं और हम 2G के सिग्नल पकड़ने अपने घर के छत पे ऐसे पोज बनाते हैं जैसे हम योगा कर रहे हों। हमारे यहाँ मोबाइल डेटा का मतलब डेटा इस्तेमाल करना नहीं बल्कि सब्र का इम्तिहान लेना है। इस्लामाबाद में बैठे हमारे पॉलिसी सास कहते हैं हम पाकिस्तान में क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग लाएंगे। अरे सर, हमारे यहाँ क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग का मतलब कुछ और है. हमारे यहाँ मतलब है कि अगर आसमान पर क्लाउड आ गया तो कंप्यूटिंग खत्म. अब आप लोग फाइबर ऑप्टिक की बात करते हैं, हमारे यहाँ तो ऐसा लगता है कि फाइबर बिछा दी गई है लेकिन उसमें ऑप्टिक डालना हम भूल गए हैं. एक फ्री लांसर बेचारा फाइल अपलोड करके नाश्ते करना चला जाता है और बकरा ईद मना के वापस आ जाता है. खैर, देन देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ पॉलिटिकल मैसेजिंग दैट आई डोंट वांट टू गो अबाउट इट. मेरी आखिरी गुजारिश, खुदारा गिलगित बल्तिस्तान को इंटरनेट दें, वरना हम ट्विटर पे एहतजाज करने के लिए भी कबूतर भेजने पर मजबूर हो जाएंगे. So, and I think this happened last week in my class, and it really struck me because I teach at a very privileged institution, and I believe that everybody has similar access. लेकिन अब छुट्टियां आ रही हैं या वो सारा कुछ है, तो then the assignments that I give, the work that I give, he will always be left behind. So inclusion is not just people who are left behind of being excluded. Those even who are included sometimes can be excluded because of the access issue. And I also want to add one thing, Shahab, to this is that UNICEF has this very interesting conversation about second chance pathways for, kids out of school and people out of school. And I think we should be looking at this as a country. Because I don't want to dispute any model, because I feel that everybody who wants to work should work. Accelerated especially is a very, very important, combining that with skills. But, there is so much innovation that you can do by indigenizing even global concepts. For example, there is this very interesting concept in Tanzania where through the second chance pathways, they were trying to teach children and, these out of school children in the community centers. And they also brought in young mothers. So these young mothers are sometimes actually teenagers. They're not even they're still adolescents, right? And they need that kind of support. So I believe that the access issues, then the skills issues, आपके पास internet होना या access होना versus somebody sitting somewhere else is completely different. So you can, the statistics that you talk about कि हर किसी ने अपना एक model बनाया हुआ है, you'll still never be able to this. And then there's a third level of digital divide. And I want to really want to talk to this because this is a topic of my passion. And you must have seen that the teachers in this panel are quite passionate, by the way. So, I think that is required at a certain point. The third level is where you have access and skills, people like all of us, but we are still deprived of opportunity, either because of our background, of our gender, or of where we live. So, we need to also look at that. And a lot of people do not study the third level digital divide. Please do, because it is a very relevant thing for a lot of people like us. So, Shahab, your question on how do you scaffold all this through, for example, policy, people, and I would say platforms. So we have platforms, we have edtech platforms, really big ones. How do we, and wo kitne logo ko kar lenge? That's the, so the scaling is required is something that you need, and for that you need a policy. So, you can have private sector do it, but you still need to collaborate with so many different policy angles. So, this is something that I really want to point out, because in the last few days we have seen so much fear and pessimism around technology, which can be because, we don't know what it's going to bring us for the next 100 years or 20 years or 10 years. But I see there's a lot of opportunity if we
100%.
are able to just grab it now and work together, because collaboration is key. You cannot really be, silofied and just saying the policy karni padegi, implementation is key then, and that's where I feel I should stop now.
Thank you so much. And I see you being you have a point to make.
Yeah, I have some disagreements.
Please come in.
I have some disagreements.
So please go ahead.
I don't disagree with what the speaker is saying. I disagree with the impact outcomes and what is needed from what you have said. So you have not said it wrong on the digital divide. Sam Wilson from the Foundational Literacy Hub, which the government, congratulations to our government. It's installing a new NFE department, a whole brand new department. But it's not closing any of the 5 other departments that are supposed to do the same job.
Yeah.
So policy.
Yeah.
Thank you, government of Pakistan. Now, next thing is that why do we have this digital divide? Okay? जिन लोगों को इंटरनेट नहीं मिला है उनको AI का क्या पता? What do they know what is AI? They don't even have the internet. You see, the lies are when they tell you how many million subscribers there are of smartphone when you go to the PTA website. And they tell you how many there's so many users. But the fact of the matter is, we go to those areas and it turns out our areas are not even the last mile areas. I'll comment on that. The internet there is choked. So while you're saying there is internet, there is actually na hone ke kabil internet. And what is the government doing? Let's bash the government since we are in a private school setting today. Government is making online LMS systems that are 25 years old technology. आज से 20-25 साल पहले हम लोग इनके साथ खेलते थे online LMS. And you go to the universities, they are still talking online LMS. But there are offline solutions available, which is what Teach the World Foundation does.
Yes.
I'm wrapping in 10 seconds. The trick is to use universal design for learning, which does not require narrative or language. And you don't have the teachers, you don't have the schools, so bring in digital. The problem is people think digital is one thing. Digital is not one thing. It's like saying Islam is one thing. It's not one thing. It means different things to different people. Technology means different things. There are different kinds of technologies. Do you think the government knows what kinds of different technologies are there?
Sometimes we actually undermine the government a lot, but because you would, when I'm sure you work with a lot of
somebody.
No, but I actually work very closely with some people in the, like some departments in the government, and I see that there is an eagerness to learn, and there is an eagerness to learn from experts. You know, people who are running these community
I agree with
systems.
you.
I take
No,
back my
I-
comments and apologize duly.
No, I'm saying that yes, the government needs to do more all the time, because for scalability, you will need the government. But saying that they don't know things, even if they don't know, there is a lot of information that comes from people like you. You know, people like us who can contribute. And there is a very thorough consultative process that we, of course, follow through for every policy implementation. But yes, where you're right is that what have we achieved of all what you have said? What are the few things that we now need to do for these out of school children? Because at the end of the day, aapne kaha 50 million young hai, but in 2050 we'll have more 100 million more people in the economy doing what? It's something that we need to
the thing that I want to kind of come to, I want to bring the conversation back a little bit more towards the learning part, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that we want to look beyond schools. We want to look at all these solutions. We've spoken about how the rails on which this new system will need to run, they're not ideal and they're not universal, and so more needs to be done there. And we've spoken about that. But coming back to the learning part, and I before we move on to questions, and as I go through these questions, I would ask the audience, and there are people around the room, if you can point them out, and if you give them your questions, they'll come to us, and we'll take some questions as well. So one of the things your learning ka hissa hai na, Abid Sahab, is basically, like you said with parents, when we use terms like non-formal education, we use terms like, ed tech, ya beyond schools learning, ya outside school learning, right? Ek jo perception that we have is that it's not serious learning. It's not serious learning. Like school में serious learning होती है, ये second grade है. या ये नहीं, इसका सनद होगी कि नहीं होगी. Exactly. या ये compromised learning है. ठीक है? तो how do you address that? That's the first question. And I'll come to you with the same question, because it's both aspects. But the second thing connected, and I would love for you to answer that as well, is the sanad wala part, the certificate wala part, right? How do you get these children to get closer to a more formal line of thinking, right? Because employability ki baat hai, humne jobs ki baat ki, employability ki baat hai. Ugly transition into a formal aspect, will that be possible? Ji, Abid sir.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely the impression which we have for any efforts which are out of the school is going on, maybe we feel there is a less seriousness or there's a less sort of a recognition of those programs. So this was the area which was basically need to work. Now in the world, the people are talking about the non-formalization of the formal education. So all those flexibility which we need to bring in the system at same time must have some structure and system. So it's a proper recognized education. So the program which I introduced earlier, like ALP Primary or ALP Middle, and now a very interesting program is started, ALP Middle Tech, which is a combination of basic education and skill. So they will have a doer certification when they complete their grade 8 level education. They can also take one vocational skills, and then there is a window to continue vertically to further learn their vocational side or maybe the education side. Or they can go, if the age appropriate, they can go for employability and those things. So for this, what we need to do is basically Because if the children are the millions and we are talking about the flexibility, doorstep, this alternate programs, so all those programs come some the parameters. So some basic quality standards must be followed those programs. So I'll just quote one or two example, a very interesting example. 3 years back, there was one comparative study between children in ALP classes and the children in the FD schools. This was conducted by one of the government organizations. So interestingly, the children who are in ALP classes, they were performed better than the children in FDs. The reason was the pedagogy, and it was basically based on the prior learning, and then it was not based on जैसे हम रट्टा लगा के सिखाते उस तरह से नहीं था. To make this as a proper system, so all the ingredients which are required to make a systems are there. There is a policy, non-formal education policy in Punjab, Sindh, Balochistan, KP is under the process and at federal level, which give the somehow provisions of these type program and recognize these program through this policy support. Then there is a curriculum which is accelerated, but same time equivalent curriculum at primary level, middle tech, and also for the literacy level. So these curriculums are almost the equal, having a weightage by the PCTB approved or by the National Curriculum Councils or in Sindh, Dakar or those organizations. Then they have the textbooks, training system, and the last very important area is basically assessment and certification. So any child who learn from Teach the World or any platform, digital platform, or they learn at their home in a community schools, they have a now opportunity to appear in those assessment process, and they can earn a certificate which is recognized and allow them to go continue their education. Earlier, all these type of efforts was not basically needs. Okay, in one non-formal schools, children spend a few years not resulting into any sort of a proper certificate, which was barrier again to continue their education or go to the vocational side. I'll just quote 89% children from the formal education in last 3 years, they get this, reach to the completion level, they achieve the certificate, and the majority of them, they continue their education. So this is basically,
89%.
we are not talking about just because many people feel education without schooling is not happening. But not, this is not the time of just imagine education with the school. It's basically learning is happening anywhere, but that learning must be recognized and leads toward the further continuity and earning their education.
So, but one last thing before I move on, just one thing is important for it. So, can you give us some numbers in terms of, you said 89%, but like how many children over the past 3 years have gone through the system and have transitioned to a more formal education?
Yeah, if we see the number, because number is very important when we say the out-of-school children. Because the out-of-school children word, it looks like we are blaming them.
100%.
It's our fault, and we 100%. Must have we must recognize this as basically, this is not their problem, it's our failure basically. So if we see the previous report of 23-24 published by the Pakistan Institute of Education, so there is 1.2 million children in this non-formal education and ALP program. So with this potential, it is just a few years back it was started, and then we're able to reach 1.2 million. And then the transition rate is basically there are 3 indicators. One is completion, then transition, or then we also call the mainstreaming. So if we include the transition and mainstreaming together, so that is very encouraging. It's 76% children, they are transit from the level they have completed from the non-formal education. Some of them, they goes to the formal education. Many of them, they not choose formal education, but they choose the TVET side.
A vocation.
Or vocational side.
Yeah.
So, but this certificate was
76%.
accepted in any TVET institute, so they can have opportunity to further build and further go this.
Abid Saab, can I make a quick comment, because I know there's another speaker who's going to speak. Just a quick comment. A lot of information was said, maybe not a lot was received, but they've done a lot of work, and even so the 1.2 million they are claiming now that they have on their system, there's a lot of people not in the system because this is Pakistan. You understand Pakistan. We don't follow all of the rules. We have hidden black, this, that. For example, sorry to say that my organization has yet to put up our numbers on their system. So it's not even counted.
Yeah.
So there are people who are doing the work which are not counted. So if he's saying 1.2 million, it's probably more than that.
100%.
It's just that everyone hasn't gotten aligned on one boat to put all the statistics in one place on the work they're doing.
So thank you for that. And Annum, I want to come back to the earlier question, but I want to add something to this.
Yeah, Haider, I can go right at the end as well. That's fine.
No, but I do need you to come in here because this is important, right?
All right.
So we talked about certifications and we talked about accreditations, but one of the words that was used within it is assessment.
Yes.
So one of the things that we've seen is even with children in school, and I want to make sure that this conversation doesn't just become about children who are being left behind because they're not in formal schools, because there's a learning being left behind as well. Children who are going to formal schools but are not learning at the levels that they should be learning, and so they end up thinking that they know because their parents think that they know because they're going through the grades, but they're being left behind because they're not receiving the quality. So I just want to make sure that we're talking about the left behind the right way. One of the things that I want to talk about is assessment. Children and systems are giving the feedback to parents, basically saying कि बच्चे को आता है. अगर 5वीं के बच्चे से पूछें कि वालिदैन से पूछें कि आपके ख्याल में आपके बच्चे को क्या आता है, तो वो कहेगा कि 4th तक का तो आता होगा ना, तभी उन्होंने उसको 5वीं में उसका दाखिला किया है, right? So within the system, what we're seeing is कि the quality of learning is not being measured properly, and so there's a miscommunication about how assessment systems are talking about. Can you speak a bit about how that is manifesting and can be addressed going forward so that less children are being left behind?
I think that's one of the strengths of the informal sector more than the formal sector, because the formal sector, जैसे आपने कहा कि it's taken more seriously. Parents को लगता है कि बच्चा formal school में जा रहा है तो उसकी learning ज़्यादा बेहतर है. But I think parent को जहाँ पे अपने बच्चे के अंदर improvement नज़र आती है वो उसको double down करते हैं, especially now with Gen Z and there's so many different pathways to learning, which is what we're discussing today. So I believe कि opinions तो अपनी जगह है, मगर data और logic speaks for itself, and that's where tech can take a lead because हमें real time data आ रहा होता है. Any student who's doing a question, we start with the baseline, and then over the course of his journey, you're tracking how that student is doing, and you can show not just relative to that child's school, but in that district how he's doing. Because होता ये है कि जब तक बच्चे metric तक पहुँचते हैं, they're really shocked that they have had a supply. उनको idea नहीं है because they're getting A's in their schools. But with tech interventions, जहाँ पे उनको real time assessment or real time evaluations मिल रही होती हैं, that's a value add that the system can do. So Shahab, I hope that answers the question. I've kept it short because I know we have just like
No,
5
but
minutes.
I would love you to, if you would want to address this question. Do you want to?
Shahab, I also want to add something. When, apart from the assessments and the evaluations that you do for, the learning that they've achieved from the curriculum that you teach them, there is also a very important part, especially for the left behind, is the life skills, right? And that's a very important one. And I think Tabadlab is also working on a life skills framework now. We can have the best education, but if you don't have the life skills, and it can be related to the confidence, whatever. आपने थोड़ा सा बताया भी that you add something on that in the curriculum, communication, how to handle pressure, how to think critically, and especially in this current digital age, the critical thinking becomes very, very important for children and those who have technology, but they're not aware of what technology offers them or can harm them as well in some ways if they don't use it effectively. So I guess that a life skills framework along with the basic curriculum for math, Urdu, English, sciences is also a very, very important aspect. And I think those who are left behind, because confidence, communication, all these things should be there for those who are left behind as well, and not just for those who are included in our system.
So I have a question. It says traditional schooling often fails the most vulnerable. What structural barriers in our education system must be dismantled before alternative pathways can truly work? I want to take a crack at answering this very quickly. Some of it was already answered with the alternative pathways. We need scaffoldings like digital connectivity. We need cheap internet. We need access to devices for those things for tech solutions to work. Within the structural barriers, one of the structural barriers is we continue to have systems that do not adapt to the needs of the children in the communities that they're serving. So be adaptable. G.
I think one major part of this is empathy. जो बच्चा पीछे रह रहा है उसके घर में भी काफ़ी issues होंगे जो वो स्कूल लेकर आ रहा है. And the teachers, especially in low-cost private schools या government schools, already have so much burden on them कि वो एक और बच्चे की problem को solve करने में उनको training भी नहीं है, उनके पास capacity building भी नहीं है. So empathy is a huge part of why there's so many students who are, struggling with whatever it is that they're learning.
Shahab, can I add something?
No, my turn.
Go ahead. First you, then go ahead.
Half a minute, really close. You see, the word empathy here is being used as a catch-all word. It's being used as an umbrella word. Empathy here means left
आपको
behind.
ऐसे क्यों लगा
मैं कह रहा
आपको ऐसे क्यों लगा यहाँ पे कैच ऑल
Sorry.
फ्रेज नहीं
अच्छा,
यूज हो रहा
मेरे mind-
इट्स
आप अपना
डेटा
meaning-
बैक्ड
आप अपने
It's
मीनिंग
not opinion. It's
I
what
will no
800
longer
household
misquote
surveys
the
have shown.
speaker. The speaker has spoken for themselves.
Please go ahead and
I will
we'd
speak
like to
for
hear your
myself.
answer.
Yes,
We'd
okay.
like to hear your answer. Yes.
I know. Anyways.
Yes. Please, we'd like to hear what your opinion is.
देखिए, लेफ्ट बिहाइंड, लास्ट माइल, टीच द वर्ल्ड फाउंडेशन, हम लोग भी सोचते थे शायद वी आर द लास्ट माइल, वी आर नॉट. देयर इज एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कॉल्ड राइट टू प्ले. It was founded by Iqbal
Yes.
Jasoi 20
Yes.
years ago. Talk to them. They are the ones who actually go to the last mile. These are places you have to go trekking to get there.
Yes.
Okay. But I will not misquote the speaker. Apologies. Um, empathy is empathy. There's climate change. There's floods.
100%.
There's earthquakes. There's conflicts. There's internally displaced peoples. There's refugees. There's internal migration for fishing or other sorts of things. There's a lack of buy-in from the parents because even the university graduates are not getting jobs. There are economic factors where they have to go and work. There are gender issues and cultural issues. There are inclusivity and disability issues. There is shaur and awareness and behavioral change that has to be done. And of course, we must do it all empathetically.
Yes. So all the things that you missed a bit when we discussed these challenges in the beginning. But what the question was about, and I want to kind of address this as well, systemic challenges in addition to the Pakistan challenges that we spoke about, they do exist. And systemic challenges are there because systems are large. We're about to release a report on the shortage of teachers in the government system. Let me just tell you, education departments are the largest HR department in the country. They're bigger than the military. They're massive, and they still have shortages of 100,000 teachers across the country, right? So
700,000 teachers short.
Yes. So the thing about bringing those numbers in and getting those people, there are a lot of systemic barriers. इस सब के बावजूद schools are being run, children are going to school, they may not be receiving the kind of level of education that they should be receiving, but teachers are showing up to work and under very difficult, we talked about difficulty for children and all the things that you've listed, a lot of teachers are still showing up to work and running those schools and working in situations where quite frankly हम तो ना काम करें उन settings पे, right? कहाँ नहीं मगर उनके लिए नहीं कर रहे जो उस तरह से नहीं कर रहे जिस तरह से वो बेचारे कर रहे हैं तो वो सरकारी हम बहुत आसान होता है हमारे लिए जो है ना सरकारी मुलाजमीन और टीचर्स को जो है ना वो कहना मगर वो सुबह उठकर रोज सुबह स्कूल जाते हैं और उस स्कूल के अंदर जो है वो क्लास लेते हैं उन मुश्किल सेटिंग्स में सो वी शुड हैव सम एम्पैथी देयर एज वेल आई थिंक we're out of time and I thank all of you for Oh, I'm so sorry, Gulalai.
No, actually, it has been almost answered, so I don't want to waste time. But I'm saying that probably we also need to look at the foundational issues that make children, keep children out of school. Because there was this research that we did in Karachi, street children, and in the 5 divisions of areas of Karachi, and most of them were either third or fourth children. And when we asked them that, like in the family, so the first one or the second one had some level of education, but the third or the fourth
Yes.
were completely on the streets, providing for the family or siblings or everything. And that is because we're also looking at a population that we cannot control and an economy that cannot
And
feed
there's a
all of
gendered
them.
aspect of that as
So,
well.
yeah, so
Yes, it's a gendered
that's an
aspect of that as
issue
well.
that we need
Abid
to
Gill
look
Sahab, you wanted to have the last word.
One quick, for the out-of-school children, we always expect from the government to do something. Definitely, that is their responsibility. State is responsible to provide the free and compulsory education, but same time, the issue is very huge and we cannot only expect from the government.
100%.
I just want to give one quick example. We know there is a huge number of private schools in Pakistan. It's more than 100,000 private schools there. Imagine if private school offer a classroom in the evening or afternoon for 2 hours and allocate one teacher for 2 hours to just provide accelerated learning. The children who are maybe on the same street are the children living on the colonies of that schools even. So if we think about this type of models, maybe here we can engage 5 million.
It's
children
already
to
happening. It's already happening, sir. You know it's already happening, but more and more people
More
need to
need to
join the
more needs to be
bandwagon.
done.
Yeah, but still number is, if we see, is basically,
Yeah,
because the
it needs to-
public-private partnership is basically, government should give money to do the public-private
Exactly.
partnership. So where basically we will contribute from our side. So we have lot of teachers here, I think. So if we feel this is all our responsibility. We should not expect only others will do and we will not perform our role. So everyone have to play their role. Tech, they have to do their role. The government system, they have to provide their roles, and also the private sectors, they have to contribute. Why not for next 5 years CSR devoted to the education to address the challenge? Then we can enjoy better business and better business.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to everyone, and thank you to the audience for this being part of this important conversation. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.